In today's video, guys, I'll be getting into the work in progress balance changes for September. As always, these are subject to change, so be sure to leave your feedback in the comments below or on social media, where Supercell might see it and make some adjustments as needed for the finalized version. The first change, guys, is going to be a nerf to the minions. Ever since they increased the range, it has been debatably the most broken card in the game, and they decided to nerf the hit speed by 9%. So before it was able to hit once every second, now it's going to be hitting once every 1.1 seconds. So a little bit of a reduction. In my opinion, the minions are still going to be way better than they were before they got that range buff. So with this hit speed nerf, they're going to be worse, but they're still going to be better than their previous state. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. The Spirit Empress, guys, is getting a nerf. This is going to be only her air form because they realized the ground form is kind of the strength they want her to be, but the air form was overbuffed way too much, so they decided to reduce her hit points by 10%. I'm not sure if this means she's going to die to lightning. Maybe she's going to barely survive lightning still, but that's maybe something you guys can calculate, or we'll see once it actually gets implemented. But it's going from 1,318 to 1,192, so definitely a very significant reduction. I think we're definitely going to notice a difference, and now the flying form won't be completely broken, but I still think it might even still be better than the ground form, but only time will tell. And the Evolved Furnace, guys, this is something that everyone was waiting for. I think everyone knew that this card was going to get nerfed. It was pretty obvious. The hot spawn frequency is being reduced by 25%. So basically, instead of spawning once every 1.8 seconds, it's going to be spawning once every 2.4 seconds. So that's a pretty significant nerf. It looks like only the Evo Furnace is getting a nerf and not the regular one. Maybe that's something they'll end up changing, but I actually think that's smart, and this was the adjustment that was needed because the regular Furnace, I feel like, was relatively balanced. It was mostly the Evo that was really overwhelming because it was just spawning significantly more Fire Spirits in comparison to the standard version. And the Cannoneer, guys, is getting a nerf. As a lot of you guys know, they kind of accidentally buffed the Cannoneer in the last set of balance changes, although that's kind of debatable because a lot of people could also say the Cannoneer is very good because of the Evo Furnace, and it is an adequate counter to it, of course, because the Cannoneer is able to one-shot the Fire Spirits. But either way, guys, it's getting a 5% hit speed nerf, which means instead of shooting once every 2.1 seconds, it's going to be once every 2.2 seconds. I think this should be the adjustment they need to hopefully it not being so much stronger compared to things like the Dagger Duchess. That's probably the goal of this, because obviously the Princess Tower is still better than the Cannoneer, and now it's going to be even better than it after this, but it's to probably even the strength of the other tower troops besides the Princess Tower. The Dark Prince, guys, is getting a buff. So I guess he's getting a buff to his regular damage by 7%, going from 248 to 266, and then the charge damage as well, going from 496 to 532. And I suppose this makes sense because the charge damage has to go up if the regular damage is going up. So this is a very big buff to the Dark Prince. I feel like now it might be a little bit similar strength to the regular Prince, or not far off anymore, and that was probably the reason they did this, because the Prince has just been so much better for such a long time. The Goblinstein, guys, is getting a 4% buff to the monster hit points, going from 2,304 to 2,385. I do like this change overall. I actually think they nerfed the hit points by 4% at one point, so they're kind of adding it back, which is kind of funny, but I think they realized it was a little bit overkill, especially with all the nerfs they gave the Doctor and other nerfs it received. So now it's not going to be the worst champion in the game, although the Little Prince as well, some would argue, is the worst champion in the game, which is why they decided to buff both of them. So as you can see, the Little Prince is getting an ability knockback buff of 25%. So the Guardian now is going to knock things back 2.5 tiles instead of 2 tiles. And then the ability damage is being increased by 11% as well, going from 230 to 256. I really like this because a lot of people, when they play the Little Prince, they're using it just for the 3-card cycle, and they're not even using the ability. They're just playing it to get a 3-elixir champion so then they can cycle miners and rockets. But now the strength of the Guardian might make it to the point where you can actually use the ability, which is pretty cool. The Goblin Curse, guys, is getting a rework. So basically the damage multiplier is being reduced, so there's no more damage amplification, I'm pretty sure. But the damage of the actual curse is going up by 17%, and the tower damage is also going up by a whopping 67%. So now it deals 210 damage instead of 180, and now it deals 60 damage to towers instead of 36. So I can't even tell if this is a... I think this is still a nerf, even though they're buffing the damage and the tower damage, because the damage amplification was one of the main reasons why people used it. And then the log, guys, is technically getting a small buff. The damage is being increased by 1%, going from 266 to 268, and this is just to fix some interactions that were not consistent with the standard level log, level 11 tournament standard, and max log. I think that's why they did that. We can now see what the feedback is of what people are saying. Let's actually go ahead and refresh it to ensure we're getting some comments, because this tweet was just made. So a lot of people are saying not enough changes, to be honest, but it's something, I guess. Ass, Dark Prince, who decided the Gobstein needed a buff? Why create new towers if you want 200 Princess Towers in the top 200? What does this Goblin Curse change? Killing the Spirit Empress before she was too weak. Now she's even weaker than before. Just undo her buff. Never in a million years would I have thought the log would receive a buff. I know it's a bug fix, but it's still fascinating. Goblin Curse now being full gimmick is interesting. We needed a nerf to Poison Ice Wizard Goblin Hunt in the regular Furnace 2. Mid-balance changes so far. Does nothing. Log buff. So honestly, I think my reaction is probably similar to a lot of the other people. I think the changes are good. I would have liked to see a couple more things, but overall, I think pretty decent changes. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe. You can use creator code BOSS to support me in any Supercell game, and thanks again until next time, guys.